All right, so we're picking up with the S2000 right now. Everything's kind of a mess. Kind of set up, and I'm gonna show you guys what we're doing here. So car's pulled out. Now the accident happened. It hit back on this corner, like in this direction. So I have taillights and I have a trunk. I have a bumper, but I don't have it with me yet. So we're gonna get there in a few, but at least at the moment, I can at least use the taillights and the trunk deck to kind of align stuff in there. I'll have to remove these. You can see the taillight just basically broke out, but we can start pulling and get a pretty good idea. These are just some Vulcan tie-down straps I have. I don't know if this is a good idea or not. That's tied. I think it's gonna get tighter. We're gonna find out. A little Harbor Freight puller, D-ring on there, a little hook on there. It's coming through my bush. This is probably gonna be the weak point. We're gonna find that out, and it's wrapped around the tree. So I'm just gonna stand back there. I'm gonna throw some blankets on this, and we're just gonna start pulling. And fingers crossed, it pulls pretty easy. The car is not anchored down. We're just gonna see where we go. Like tonnage. I hear the car making creaking noises. That's another failure. So now we're gonna wrap it. Try doing this headlight and around this. Maybe it'll help kind of pull that. Maybe when it pulls this, it'll pull that a little bit. And if it doesn't, then I'm gonna do that. And I'm gonna wrap it up around here to pull. Okay, there's like 0 on that. Okay, so it's pulling that out for sure. I need to be able to pull this. All right, let's let the pressure down a little bit. All right, so now got it wrapped underneath there and then up around that portion. If you remember, the trunk pan was kind of busted through on the sides. So we're gonna grab it that way. Whoop. Okay. So it's funny because it builds pressure and then it like drops it because the car is doing something. Okay, now I have some resistance. I'll let it sit there for a second. It's got 1.5 tons applied. That seems to be taut. It's kind of hard because I don't know if anything's been moving or not. I don't think that has moved. Oh, okay. Set things at like 2.5 tons here. All right, so instead of pulling, let's try pushing this out and see if this corrects itself. I'm gonna try to set you guys up here. I don't know how well. Okay. Getting somewhere now. For sure, look at that. Whoop, let's back off a little bit. Ooh, look at that. Then it kind of retracts back. All right, but let's move that in a little bit more and we'll go. This might be promising a little bit. Oh, it's definitely pushing. Oh, okay, let's keep going. It's definitely doing something. Downside is I don't really have a good side to reflect on. I'm not taking all my car apart here. Let's just keep pushing that out. All right, let's release some pressure and see what it, whoop, kind of goes back in. All right, I just kept tugging on this thing for the last like hour. I was pushing, pulling. I can get it stuff to move things, but the conundrum is if I don't move the trunk area, the frame back, the bumper will never get on this thing. So feel kind of defeated. I'm going to show you guys here in a second like what I think needs to be pulled. And I tried pushing on it, I just cannot. It will not move it. See if I can maybe just find a frame shop in town. I don't need them to charge me a lot of money. I need them just to, like, I don't need a full restoration on this. I just need them to pull it. I can give them a taillights, bumper, and a trunk. I just need them to be able to get that on the car. As far as bodywork is concerned, right, I'll do all that myself and figure that out. I mean, I gave it an honest go, I think. Some of it wasn't on camera because I was just trying to get this moving, but nothing was pushing or pulling the way I wanted it. So, right, you can see if you look straight down here, I mean, it's probably pretty obvious. This is what's pushed inward, and then this is pushed outward like that way. See, the spot welds are broke there. Spot welds are broke back there. Like, if they can get this pulled, I'll re-spot weld that shit. That's fine. But I was trying to push even here. You can see this is where crinkled. This whole area just needs to be pulled. And maybe, again, if you can grab that and pull it, I just can't fucking do it. Not with what I have. All right, so back to the red S2000. So we got it back. See if I can show you guys a little bit here. That's the trunk closing. So the trunk does close. I'll show you guys some pictures. So the body line is a little rough here. Meanwhile, it's really going to be the shit show. And if you notice, it flexes very easily. But the rest of the rear quarter is still pretty good. The taillight bucket, pretty messed up. But the bumper, for the most part, is on the car. In case you don't know, I usually have like fucking 10 projects going on at once. Point being, the bumper's on the car. And this taillight, or the driver's side taillight, fits somewhat like this taillight. It's not good. It's not bad, but huge gap here. But the moral of it is what I really asked the frame shop for was they could get the trunk on and it would latch and the bumper on. So we have that. It's a little bit of a gap here, but we can probably work that. So I think what I'm gonna do is, you're gonna think I'm crazy. All right, there's some good damage up here and there's a body line that goes across this. I think it's gonna be kind of a pain just to work all this and just get it to be looking as good as it can. So hear me out. Here's the craziness. I am going to 3D scan my good one. Right, you can see, probably a little harder there with that, but you can see the nice body line that goes across here like this. Nice dip down. Some little intricate stuff in here. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna 3D scan this, I think, and then I'm gonna reverse engineer it, 3D print it, only what I need, come back over to this, right, because all this is good. And honestly, maybe like cut, you know, I don't know, we'll figure it out. But cut what I need to cut and put that in here. And I'll do the same for that side. Probably some fiberglass on it, reinforce and obviously bodywork it. But that should be able to help me keep some more of the lines. So we'll see. We'll see how that goes out. All right, so here we are. 3D modeled it, printed it. This little radius up in here I think's a little bit too much. According to my model after the fact, it's kind of hard to hold this, but it's gonna be something like that. And you could say, like I said, it's a little too much. So I'll have to sand a little bit in that. I don't know if it's worth totally remodeling and printing it because it does fit just about everywhere else. So next though, before I even do this, I'm just gonna leave that alone the way it sits. I've got to cut the car. So let's get to cutting the car a little bit. All right, so here we are. I don't have the bolt in here. It still has the mounting tab. I'm just gonna kind of like slide in there. And if you don't know, these bumpers have some adjustment. Like if you look up in there, I don't know if you'll be able to see it, but it's got some like sliding back and forth. It does. You can see I can do that with it, which gets pretty close. Again, this has got a little bit of a crease down here, but I cut most of this out. And if you want to look, the taillight, for instance, might be kind of dark. I've got a bolt back there all the way in. This bolt I can grab, but the two top bolts I cannot grab. Now that being said, I could probably beat that, you know, from inside out just a little bit. This is doing what it's supposed to do. It goes on top of this. I'm gonna have to like smooth some of this out. Looks like dog shit. But if I just kind of push that in, you'll be able to see this is pretty good with the bumper. There's a slight little gap, ever so little, but mean, right here is pretty good. And again, taillight's not all the way bolted in. And the bumper, if I pull out the bumper just a little bit, it's good there. So this is probably workable. Again, if I pull out there, it pushes this out. Just to give you a little bit of an idea there, it sticks over just a little bit. Again, but I could probably do something to fix this and adjust this here. They're pretty good. I didn't cut all the way through that. All right, here we go. 3D print. This one came out a bit better now. We're on-ish. This body crease line here, I kind of matched up there roughly. And again, right here, there's a contour in it, but right about, it kind of gets up a little bit. And then right here, it's, I mean, you can see it, right? It's coming up. So I could probably body work that down. And then plus, once I eventually get this side good, I'll have something to kind of go by, right? So again, it's not perfect, but roughly aligned here. There's a little bit of a gap there. I took a little too much, but the idea is there. This needs to be shaped a bit, but overall, it fits pretty good there to the taillight. Again, bumper kind of sucked in a little bit on the taillight, but we could probably work that. I can pull the bumper outwards as well, but arguably against the body, right? It's a little rough here. It's a little indented there. This is just going to take a good sand and then some body filler and just smooth it out is what I figured. But if we come around over here, right, this is not lining up 100%, but on the yellow one, when I compared, this spot right here on the taillight is about where this point needs to go. So if I kind of just move it manually there, it's about where it wants to be. And honestly, it fits with this taillight just the way it is on the S2000, the yellow one that is. But we could argue the trunk gap is pretty wild. So the question really lies, does this taillight need to go in more? Because I can do it wrong. I could like bend this in there and get this trunk gap a bit better. Starts to pull there, but I could still work with that if I had to. But let's just move that aside for now. The other situation here is if we just look here, right? So the taillight arguably here is perfect. It's like flush with the bumper. It sticks out a bit over there. And again, I could adjust this bumper a bit, but the gap here, I can almost get my finger all the way in there, and I can get my finger all the way here in the trunk. And again, this has got a gap. So I'm really not sure what's going on there. They also don't really exactly line up. And if we go back here, this, we'll just call it this fin here, arguably lines up about there. On this side, it looks like it needs to come over, but let's also note this. You can tell this whole thing like shifted in some fashion because look up here. See how this is touching right here? There's a gap here. Just kind of note all of this. And if we come over to the driver's side, it's kind of the same-ish. And let's go look at a good one. There is a tight gap here, kind of a tight gap all the way around that side. Kind of close to the wall, I can't see, but arguably it looks like this side towards the outside of the car is a little tighter than the inside, but it's equal nonetheless. And I got some body measuring gauges. Here's probably the biggest gap. And I'm wrong, you could probably adjust in this car. I don't think it's ever needed to be adjusted, but again, that's a little tight in there for sure. It's like everything just kind of shifted just a little bit. That being said, I'm not going to get crazy about that. But the question is that playing a role in this equation? So I don't really know. I'm going to take the hinges off this trunk real quick and just lay the trunk on here and let's move it around and we'll see how that works out. All right, so the hinges are off. I kind of pulled the bumper out so it made over here a bit more flush. And then I pulled the headlight out this direction. Now granted, there is a gap here. Whoop, but the taillight is, well, I had it. Either way, you get the point. I can adjust it. So in the frame shop, got it kind of together-ish. This light does go in there and bolt up, but here's a big kicker. There's nothing against him, right? I just had certain criteria I told him to do, and he wasn't probably aware. But this technically goes underneath this. So I'm going to kind of beat this down a bit, and that's probably also why we have this giant gap over here. So I'm going to kind of beat this down, and let's see where we can go from there. So take the light out. Just some crude Naturally, that wants to flare a little bit. I will grab a hammer and dolly. Well, got it over there. I will get there. Let me just get a little bit closer and we'll start fine tuning it when need be. Taillight's in. I'm not really going to judge it off of this quarter because it's clearly, you know, banged up. I don't know if this is a good idea, but I'm using the bumper. So it's like just in on the bumper there. It's actually, this one fits pretty good. It's recessed a little bit there, but I can push it out just a skosh. This one is flush with the bumper and comes out just a little skosh on that side. Again, it doesn't really, this little lip here does not meet the trunk. I kind of centered it a bit better, the trunk as far as the bumper, and there's no hinges. I mean, the hinges are back in, but I took the spring out, and I took the latch out. That way I could kind of, you know, move them around a little bit. And you can see if I lower it here, right, like I can, granted, it doesn't want to stay over there, but all right, there's a good gap. But if I do that, I mean, I'm literally grabbing it between the tail light here. I mean, I can get my whole hand in there now. So if I move it back to kind of like where it just wants to settle, like there-ish, this old guy fits the top of this tail light. It's moving on me, but it definitely fits quite good. And then it just gets real tight. Again, not really using this. I don't know. I'm just kind of talking out loud here. That's clearly pinched. You know, I don't know. Still a huge gap up here, but again, this thing is probably all kinds of wonky. I don't know if using the bumper is the best method here. I will say the bumper is attaching in the OEM spot. Like, and it's it's pretty good there, arguably. It's messed up here. I don't know. Here it's kind of the opposite, right? Like bumper sticks out a little bit, which means this is, which you could argue that where it's tight up here, this whole area of the car is shifted inward, which means it needs to be pulled outward, but that's pretty intense. And I could cut all the way back here and just start 3D printing stuff. I just prefer not to do that. A little excessive. I would get my gap here, but right, I'm trying to just think of all the different options. Even if I get my gap over there, and let's just pretend this one, if I cut, you know, right here and 3D print all this stuff back here, get this good, this gap could be good. But what it does not solve still is this gap between trunk and the taillight, trunk and this. I don't know. Well, honestly, I don't know how long this video is. I might just make this the end of the video for now. There is some progress being made. I'm just spitballing. Today is the 8th of October. I don't know when this is gonna go up, but I'm gonna try not to do anything to it. See if anybody leaves for comments, whatever. Besides comments are like, this is stupid, replace the rear quarter panel. Yeah, sure, I understand that. That's the right thing to do. But in this case, this is gonna be just a track car. I mean, the car, arguably, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying Brian didn't take care of it, but it definitely needs a legit wash and just a whole thorough, you know, gone through. I just wanted to address this situation first. Again, the car drives straight. It brakes straight. When you hit the gas, it accelerates straight. So all this back here arguably is just fascia. Some buddies of mine, I doubt you're watching this, but Charlie, if you do, some people are just like, oh, just cut the whole back off and make it a tube rear. I kind of want this to look like an S2000. And granted, I could do all what I have right now and it would look like an S2000. I could body work it. But some of these lines are going to drive me up the wall, especially when you look at it from the back. I even contemplated, like, it's going to get a wing. It'll get a splitter. Contemplate even designing like a wing. I don't know. That would hide that. Again, aesthetically, it would hide that. But I do want the trunk to be able to open and close, right? Because I could throw stuff into it. Granted, right now, I mean, there's no springs on the hinge, but I mean, it looks like dog shit. Don't get me wrong. It's all beat to hell in here. You can see where they kind of got the floor pan back together a little bit. So you can see there, right? There's some separation. There's some separation there. Oh, probably can't see that, maybe. It's separated right there, you can see. And the intention would be just to panel bond all that back together just to give it some strength. But again, yeah, I don't know. probably gonna stop there for the time being, but as usual, any questions, comments, any aid you want to give, I'm all ears. Yeah, so I appreciate everybody for watching. Tune in for the next video. Fingers crossed by the next time, maybe we got some kind of game plan going.